Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're not just, passively looking back at a history textbook. Instead, we are retracing the literal steps of an absolutely incredible and honestly often untold story of just sheer human resilience. We're going to explore the Underground Railroad, but from a completely different geographic perspective than you might be used to. 1,500. Take a second and just let that number truly sink in. Okay, 1,500. It's not a historical date, it's not some random statistic. That number represents the sheer, grueling mileage walked entirely on foot by a single family seeking liberation. I mean, think about that. Every single one of those 1,500 miles was a dangerous, literal life or death step toward freedom.
So who actually took those steps? Well, meet John Little and his family. Back in the 1840s, this family achieved something that feels almost unimaginable to us today. They walked from North Carolina all the way north to Canada. And obviously, they didn't catch a ride in any modern sense. They physically traversed that entire route. That 1,500-mile journey was quite literally a desperate fight for their lives, their basic human rights, and the future of their entire family line.
Now, you might be wondering, how do we actually know the specific details of this massive physical feat? Well, it's all thanks to a man named Benjamin Drew. Drew meticulously documented their journey. He actually sat down to record the harsh realities, the brutal daily struggles, and ultimately the incredible triumphs of the little family. Because of him, their monumental effort didn't just fade away into the ether of unrecorded history.
But here's the thing. John Little's family is really just one tiny part of a much larger and frankly heartbreaking picture. Benjamin Drew managed to document about 20 specific individuals who made this monumental journey. Just 20. But for every single story we actually have on record, there are thousands, literally thousands of freedom seekers whose names were tragically lost to time. Countless individuals braved that exact same peril without ever making it into the history books. Yet, even though we don't have all their names, their presence is permanently etched right into the landscape itself. Their footsteps still echo in the dense Carolina soil, deep within the dark, muddy peat of the Great Dismal Swamp, and even all the way out to the sharp Bahamian coral. You see, this wasn't just a straight, easy paved line north, not at all. It was a sprawling, highly secretive network completely filled with unique, wildly dangerous natural and man-made obstacles.
Section 2. The Starting Line. Reframing the Carolinas.
The Carolinas weren't the end of the road. They were the starting line for freedom. Man, what an incredibly potent shift in perspective that is. We typically think of the Carolinas historically as these brutal endpoints of enslavement, places of intense suffering and forced labor. But for the thousands of individuals we were just talking about, the Carolinas were actually the dynamic launchpad for their liberation. It was the true genesis of their rebellion.
Section 3. Retracing the Steps, the Legacy Today.
Now, I want you to think about that history compared to where we are today. Back in the 1840s, John Little walked a mind-boggling 1,500 miles. Well, today, there are modern walkers actively retracing Harriet Tubman's 695-mile route. It's like this amazing continuation of physical endurance as a way to forge a deep, personal historical connection. People today are literally putting their boots on the ground to try and grasp just a tiny fraction of what those freedom seekers experienced, totally bridging the gap between old, dusty historical documents and actual lived reality.
And hey, if you're sitting there right now wanting to know more about the specific paths they took, those resources are out there for you. We have detailed maps of these routes, full historical narratives, like the records from Benjamin Drew we talked about earlier, and an absolute wealth of information on these modern retracing efforts. The tools are absolutely available for anyone who wants to dive deeper into this incredible history.
So, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question today. What is your next rebellion story? I mean, these individuals faced 1,500 miles on foot, trekked through treacherous swamps, and fought against a societal system that was entirely stacked against their very existence, and yet they walked forward anyway. So when you look at your own modern life, how can their historic acts of rebellion fuel your own resilience? Let their 19th century starting line inspire your starting line today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep seeking out those amazing narratives and definitely keep learning.